Okay, I'm just gonna pause the recording for a second until we find
He's here.
Janice.
Follow Janice Bennett
Oh.
beside Dan.
Great, here we are. It's about 5 minutes past 5 on Thursday, December 19th, our last meeting of the year. Hey, Ed, if you would mind muting there. Muting, or Ed, could you mind muting if you're gonna talk?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was
Just
just worried about
started the
the
meeting.
Let's mute.
All right, and I'm gonna call the roll, so don't
Let's
mute. So I'm gonna call the roll and
Oh, no, we can't.
Reg Foster,
Jim Flanagan's here.
Ed Scheidler's here.
Penny Kirk's here.
Janice Bennett is present.
and we have all of our commissioners and Cheryl Gosman, our faithful and fearless executive director. I just wanted to let everybody know that this is a hybrid meeting being done pursuant to the chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, allowing us to do this through March 29th, 2023, and we'll see whether that gets extended. I bet it does. And I just wanted to note for the record that the Secretary of the Needham Housing Authority provided adequate notice of this meeting by preparing a public notice dated December 16th, 2024, setting forth the date and time and place and agenda. And said notice was filed with the clerk of the town of Needham and provided to people who were requesting them. So tonight we have our agenda. We have a bit of an unusual agenda here in that just an announcement from the chair that we will be going into executive session at the end of our public meeting. We received a lawsuit. Actually, it was the Needham Housing Authority and the Needham Planning Board received a lawsuit from Jim Burke objecting to things. And we will be adjourning for the purposes of discussing legal strategy. And after we finish doing that, we do not plan to come back into regular meeting. We'll just be adjourning for the evening here. So everybody can stay through that point. Then I'm going to ask the people online, the people in the room to excuse themselves here. Okay, we have our regular agenda here. First off is the tenant associations. Is there anybody here from the Cook Bridge Tenants Association? Ah, there is.
Oh, yes. Well, first thing was, I know that at last month's meeting, I stood up and said there were many residents who had concerns and had a lot to say, but the time was, getting on. And I believe you mentioned, Reg, or you thought we're gonna think about having some sort of a meeting or a session so that residents from, Robert Cook and Seabeds will have a chance to speak about what their concerns are, because time was taken up quite a bit last time. And I want to know if you guys have come up with a plan.
So have you followed that up with Cheryl? Is there a plan?
Well, I did meet with the Cooksbury Tenants Association this morning at
Yeah.
11:30, Sue and Jessica. And they had a community meeting to sort of follow up on our last month board meeting. They talked a lot about what was brought up at the last meeting.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. And so so that was a good meeting. And I think we will continue to meet with each other going forward.
Is that, well, not exactly what you were asking, but if you can't hear, I would suggest coming sitting in the front row because
We can't shout.
maybe you can come and sit in the front row so you can hear Cheryl.
All right.
Reg, I'm having a hard time hearing also. So if speakers could speak a little louder, it would be helpful.
Okay. Sounds good.
Maybe
We have,
turn up your volume.
It's up to the point of
You
shattering,
just
Janet.
stayed in the same row. You should really move to the front row, move
Yeah.
a little closer. You should move a little closer.
Front row.
Yeah,
Okay,
so you
all
can
right.
hear.
My question was,
And we heard your question. You didn't hear my response.
I did not.
So my response was that we met with you and
Right,
CPTA
today.
this morning, you and Jessica, and that you both had a community meeting as well.
Yes.
You've informed me of your community meeting where you talked about concerns of residents and you shared some of those concerns with me. And I mentioned to Reg that we can continue to do that.
Well, no, I mean, there are plenty of residents who did not get the opportunity to speak at the last meeting because it was taking up a lot of time. And I stood up and I said, Reg, we need to do something where these residents can. And you guys were supposed to come up with some sort of a plan or kind of, not everybody gets a chance to speak, especially with a 3-minute limit. So something's got to be done because these people are getting very angry and upset about it. So, and that's one reason why they don't come to the meetings either.
I see. So it sounds like it didn't get followed up by anybody.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm talking specifically to you because you were the one who said something, see if we can come up with something.
Yes, but I did expect you to follow up with Cheryl.
Yeah, well,
Did you follow up with Cheryl?
we had our meeting today,
Okay, and
but
what
we did not follow up.
did you discuss it at this
No.
meeting today?
No,
Is there any reason not to discuss it immediately, when I'm a volunteer. I'm actually
Right,
putting
right.
in thousands of hours a month. No, that's an
what I'm
exaggeration, but
saying
many
is
hours.
that
but
3
it-
minutes is not enough.
No, I hear you, but what I'm saying
Well,
to
can
you,
I
if you want
respond
to
to
follow
this?
up on something, please follow up on it and don't
Okay.
rely on me because I'm an imperfect person. I will fall short and I obviously have fallen
I
short,
was
but
under the impression that you guys were gonna maybe set up. a
what
plan.
guys? Who guys?
You guys.
No, I was
Okay.
expecting it to be followed up by you, and I was saying it sounded like a good idea. And
mean,
I'm a
we
little
did-
disappointed that you didn't follow up on it at all.
No,
I don't remember getting an email from you.
no.
About following
no,
up on it.
I didn't.
I don't remember you sending me an email at the beginning of the week saying, hey, I was gonna bring this up again and follow up.
No,
And I don't appreciate being sort of
oh, I'm sorry,
bushwhacked.
but this is what I understood
Yeah, I
at
got
the
it.
meeting.
I'm
So I
sorry.
apologize.
Is this important to you?
It's very important.
Would
to
you
not
please
just
follow
be-
up and not just depend on me?
Right, no, it's important.
Please.
I would like to respond as
Hey,
the
go
resident
ahead.
Go
commissioner,
ahead.
please.
Thank you, Janice.
So I just want to say that, I noticed last month's meeting that many of the newly recognized TO over at Linden Chambers, each and every one of them spoke, and that's not the way it goes. The tenant organization brings the information back to the residents, which is just for whatever is discussed at these meetings. And then it's up to the top tier people of the organization to come with their concerns to either the director or whoever she may delegate
Okay.
that to. And therefore, it's only 1 or 2 people that would go to the director and also speak at the meeting for the constituents. You have to make that clear because our time is also limited as well. We can't expect to hear from, say, 10 resident organization members at one particular meeting. No, you have to go through your bullet points, but you go through them with the housing authority prior to coming to the meeting. Because we just don't have the time. We work very hard at a lot of things behind the scenes, Sue. So,
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, I'm sorry that you
And
didn't
I'm
get
sorry,
whatever
too.
part I played in not following it up, but.
Well,
you know,
I apologize as well, and I'm glad Janice was able to remind me, because I had forgotten a lot of things. When you get to be my age, you do. And the second
you,
thing
Sue.
is, I actually went on the YouTube, I was gonna suggest to some residents who don't come to the meetings and don't really understand the whole reconstruction thing, to, listen to some of the past meetings on video, okay, on YouTube. So I went on today, and the last video was from July. No video, no minutes from July, and what is the person who does it, are they not here anymore, or what?
Cheryl. can
I'm
you
the
address
person
this?
who does it,
Yeah.
and I'm working on it. I am uploading the videos as we speak. The minutes are current, our minutes are current
Okay.
on our website, but the videos, I am working on uploading that. So, I'm not sure what I'm pretty sure I got as far as September, but I'll double check.
Yeah,
Cause I've been uploading them. My son is here, visiting with me, and he's helping me with his, young mind. And, those are getting uploaded, but they will be completed, before the end of the year.
okay, because the last video was in July that I
Mhm.
saw.
Yeah,
And I was just hoping that, if folks could get, some information,
yeah,
through the meetings, if they couldn't make it to the meeting or they went online. But I'm glad I didn't say anything to them.
no, we will get that done. We will complete that task before the
Okay.
end of the year.
All right,
Thank you for bringing it up.
Anything else, Sue?
Nope,
Okay.
aren't you
great.
lucky? No,
Yeah.
nothing.
Thank you, Sue.
I'm probably this is a good time for me to announce, and before we head the Linden Tenants Association, that I actually am going on vacation next month. Maybe I should have said that as a chairman's announcement. I was going to remind everybody at the end, and maybe I need a vacation.
Probably.
I'm actually going to be leaving on the 3rd of January for almost 3 weeks, and I'll be back on Wednesday, the 22nd. And it's my wife and I's 30th wedding anniversary, and we just do not know how we got this far down the road. It's amazing because it was just like yesterday that we were just newlyweds. And we're doing a bucket list trip. We've had out for 30 years to the Galapagos Islands, to Machu Picchu, and to explore the Amazon rainforest as well, all in, one free bucket list, items. So,
Well, let's hope we get back
Anyway.
from the Amazon.
Be safe.
so, I just wanted to say that our vice chair is going to get a battlefield promotion for next month's meeting. And I'm sure everything will just go fine, including the answer to this question that you raised today, but I won't be around to answer it myself here.
Well,
Oh.
Tuesday is the 21st.
Anyway, Linden Chambers Tenants Association. Hello, Ross.
Yeah, this is Ross Donald, 25H Chambers Street. And I feel like we're on the verge of actually getting organized.
Terrific.
Well, I think if we can get into a routine, we've been meeting with Cheryl, and that having kind of a routine, some expectations, and also beginning to recognize some repeated things in the board package. But this is the kind of question I'd like to address that we may not have an answer for now. That's what I say. If every month I see asbestos remediation, I'd like to know what that is, somehow. And mold abatement, there was a bill there. It was pretty significant. It wasn't repeated, but there are other things that are not repeated that should be, I think, looked at from some other points of view, like tree removal. If there's $16,000 worth of trees being removed, are we acknowledging that there's a public shade tree provision? We may be on private property, and whatever is public in terms of the public shade tree law might not apply. We have a road, but it's not a public road. I don't know what it's all going to mean, but there is a tree preservation committee. And I think one of the things we should look forward to is the role that the housing authority can play regarding trees. I mean, if the whole town is going to care about trees or climate change or solar energy or open space or whatever, we should have a role in that. And I noticed that The Housing Authority's taken a position on the MBTA zoning, for instance. So that I think is useful and important. We're an institution in town, and we should have something to say about it. But I'm not expecting any responses on these things. It should be maybe worked into the system that we develop. So I'll get answers to these questions eventually, and they may come up to a policy level or something that the Housing Authority wants to look at. We have our point of view as residents. But the only thing I want to point out that our next big project from a resident's point of view is getting office space. I've communicated with other LTOs, and one of the things that they've been able to do in a few instances is use a rental unit. You get a waiver from the state, and that space would be allowed to be used in the same way that Lori and Springwell are using an office space now. So we'd like that to be in consideration. So thank you. That's it. Have a
Great.
good vacation.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say? Go ahead.
So I did meet with the LCRA yesterday.
Oh, great.
And we did talk about office space, and I did give them some options, which could possibly be our, what's the room, a conference room in our office. So we have it all set up. We can, and there's a computer monitor in there, and they can use that space. There's also a space on Linden Street. We're currently using to store appliances, and so that's a possibility as well, although that space is not wired, so we'd have to make sure we get internet access to that space. But our office is a good option for them to use.
Well, certainly it's the quickest available at the moment
Yeah.
until we get something more permanent set up
Exactly,
here.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
And,
I-
sorry, go ahead.
You have, don't go ahead. Finish.
So, we're not going to take a unit offline. There's a process to go through EOHLC in order to, repurpose units. So we currently have one unit offline. We want to leave the remaining units open for people that need to rent them.
Well, this has come up from time to time.
Yeah.
And since I'm probably going back to you being a commissioner, and the one thing I think is always comes up as a concern is if we take a unit offline, it's one less person who desperately needs affordable housing that is, doesn't get it.
That's
Who's living in their car, living in a situation where, it's not as nice as what we can provide. So I would, myself, speaking as one commissioner, I would sort of favor something that reuses, 192 Linden Street.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I did some historical research last year for our anniversary. And that was the original Housing Authority office. That's why it is what it is. Way back, the one up the hill that way back before, we were all probably in diapers at the very best, So 164, whatever, no, not 164. This one's up the hill. It's it looks like one of the High Rock Exchange bungalows.
Childcare center up there.
Yeah.
The square
Yeah.
building with yellow siding.
But anyway, that's on the agenda, and
Yeah.
then so hopefully you'll work something out. I'm delighted to hear that you had your first meeting. Are you gonna have regular meetings?
Yeah, and that wasn't the first one, but we'll have regular, we're supposed to, be able to meet, once every 3 months? We want to do
No,
it once every month, if it's convenient for Cheryl, and she's
It's up to
willing.
Cheryl, but
That's great.
more communications is better from my point of view. We
Yeah.
can make the time.
Comment on those. I'm glad that we're thinking about office space for the LTO, but that building's a block up the hill.
Yep.
No, people aren't gonna go there.
Well, there's
It's-
that.
it's
Yeah,
not
that's a
gonna
good
go- They're
point.
not gonna go 3.5 miles to the office either.
Mm.
We had a wonderful party today. The room was full.
Mm.
Everybody walked to get here. That's what, if we had it some other place, we wouldn't have anywhere near the number of people.
So the
going,
office really is just for your board members, is that correct? Or are you looking to
It's
hold
for
meetings
papers,
for
it's
residents?
for a phone, it's for computer, facilities, copying machines, things
All
like
of
that.
which we have available,
Pardon me?
all of which is available.
Yeah, but it's not
Well,
convenient.
let's not talk about it now.
Okay.
Let's come
Thank you.
back with a
apologize.
solution, if we can. So,
Gosh, that's a
Hey,
better
e-
offer than we ever had.
So,
Well, we're asking for it.
let me just see, anybody else in the room or online, if you wish to talk, please put your hand up. I'm not seeing anybody. So I guess we'll move on to the next agenda item. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you put your hand up. Go ahead.
I thought you were checking Zoom.
I was looking, I have it on my screen, so I'm looking down.
Which is a good idea, because there might be someone there that wants to speak. My name is Marlene Costa. I'm treasurer of the, at the, Linden Chambers Residents Association. So one concern I have is, and I think that I brought this up at the previous meeting, but, we did have a meeting with Cheryl, Gosman, and it was an excellent meeting, yesterday, I believe. And she did verify that as far as capital improvements, that the driveway was going to be beginning sometime in the spring, which is long overdue. And I hope to God that that really does happen and that, you know, it goes through with the EOLHC, because it's a dangerous situation, both the walkways and particularly the driveways. However, there are other capital improvements and necessary repairs that I'm hoping that the money from the governor's bill that's available for housing authorities, that's also going to be applied for, fought for, because there is obviously not money in the current budget, but things like the heating equipment, the heating systems, at least with respect to chambers. The heating systems, the electrical boxes that are in the individual apartments that aren't effective. And the maintenance department, it's not really their fault because they have a budget they have to work within. And they can only do emergency repairs. So in other words, if a circuit dies, they try to scrounge up a used one and repurpose it, for example, for the electrical boxes, rather than, because they know they're obsolete. They need to be changed because they cannot buy new ones. They don't make them, they're obsolete. So rather than tell people to plug things in different places or their air conditioning is gonna blow the system or some other, you know, basic household item doesn't have capacity for the electrics and risk having a fire. I mean, something like that to simply get them, have the money in the fund from the governor's fund so that the maintenance can call the electrician and change out the box when these things happen, because it's very serious fire risk. And it's happened in my own apartment, and it's happened in other people's as well. The heating equipment, again, several days, I think I mentioned this once before, several days. Last winter, there is no heat. It's an ongoing issue. I know that they're trying to, you know, you obviously replace the heating systems, which can be very difficult to do in an old building. I understand that. But to have some kind of review or a way of upgrading the heating system in some capacity so things like that don't happen. It's not acceptable to have a whole week or week and a half during the winter without heat in people's apartments.
Can I ask a
In
question?
chambers, that's, you know, at least that's what's happening in chambers.
Can I ask a question? Did you bring this up at the meeting yesterday?
I did talk about capital improvements.
Because,
She had mentioned the driveway.
but this much specificity.
No, because there was not enough time. I mean, we were limited by the amount of time that we had, but
Well,
I
even
thought
less-
this is relevant.
Even less, no, let me say, even less time at this meeting, we only meet once a month, so I hope you bring it up directly.
Yeah.
Not rely on going through this meeting because, and we can't, the board can't do anything about it except pass the budget, which we did submit, can I just finish?
Sorry.
And there is capital money in there going after this new money that supposedly the governor got. And do you know when we're gonna hear back about our budget submission for 2025?
Well, it's already been approved.
It's
You
been
mean in
approved.
The capital program. It's
Yeah,
already
I mean,
been approved.
yeah,
And we have the schedule of which I shared with LCRA. And you're right. I mean, these kinds of issues need to be discussed in a meeting with me in our office, of which I do follow up with our maintenance director over. So Greg and I did meet this afternoon to bring up some of the concerns that were raised at our meeting. And then I can share that with you at our next meeting,
Thank you.
or even in an email.
Yeah, thank you. The only thing is, if they don't have the money to work with, there's nothing, their hands are tied. So it's not, I'm not criticizing the maintenance department. What I'm saying is they have to work within a range and they can only do what they can do. They're not, as far as I know, they don't have the authority to spend money that hasn't been approved.
Correct.
And we get that,
Right,
yeah.
so.
And-
I'm
and-
just
and
saying
it's
that
been
somebody
approved.
who's in charge has to deal with this, because things like the windows, there was a window project several
Marlene,
years ago.
Can I,
Okay,
can
and
I,
then
can I ask you to
disappeared.
bring this not through this meeting? We got your point, but I will say the capital budget has been approved. So what you got yesterday is what we got for this year coming up. You know, it's not, there's no new pot of money to go after.
That's correct. So
So-
our capital
Oh,
program
okay.
is a 5-year program, and we have a schedule of the items that will be addressed during that period. We start that project again, we start that conversation again in the spring with our cap. So he comes to meet with us and we talk about capital improvements, of which we will include the LCRA in that discussion.
Okay, because I
So-
think things like electrics and heating systems.
You're right.
Is there
And
anything else?
hearing that
The
from
most
you
important.
is important to us.
Yeah, are there any other points you want to bring up?
Yeah, only one other thing. I did the additional document that I just received an email from Ross, he forwarded it to me. And from the information he forwarded to me, there was mention of hiring, either hiring a consultant or hiring a committee to improve community relations between the tenants and also to improve the relations of the maintenance department. And I just would like to say that I just feel that since money is so tight, to spend money on to hire a consultant, when the only problem the tenants have in relations to the maintenance is that they don't have the money or whatever to do to make the necessary repairs to make this a safe place to live. Waiting for something to explode and then have no heat or have no electrics and say, okay, we'll send somebody out there to fidget it so we can get it to work for a few more days or a season. That's not good enough. So if you want to improve relations, take that 100,000 or whatever you're planning to pay this consultant and get some work done on these apartments for the seniors to live in safety and dignity.
Cheryl,
And,
is there any comment you have on that?
So those are two different things. You're referring to my goals, and those are my goals. They're my personal goals. But they're sort of irrelevant to the issues of what maintenance has to face every day. It's just the goals of increasing resident engagement, and perhaps hiring a consultant to help us get there. But it's different than the maintenance issues that we are faced with, not just Needham Housing Authorities, but most of the public housing agencies in the state, repairing aging units.
And we'll
So-
be discussing that's on the agenda later on today, so
Yeah.
hang in there.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
that's
not
okay.
allowed to speak. Those, I was told
Yeah.
those were the rules. I only have 3 minutes.
So you are a member of the Tenants Association, and that's a new thing. We have, you've been speaking for about 7 minutes and I haven't said anything about it because you are a member of the new board of the Tenants Association, but we do have a bunch of other things to get through in this. I'm not trying to limit you. I'm just trying to let you know it's on the agenda for later on
Okay,
tonight.
well, I thought I only had the 3 minutes. That's the only reason I brought it
No,
up.
you're pushing up against 10 now. So anything else?
The only comment I'd like to make is about the units, and I wholeheartedly agree that units should be reserved for people that have nowhere else to live, and they should be filled with people rather than for other organizations or
Great.
dealings. However, there have been a slew of apartments that have been vacant, at least in chambers that I know of. Or like one apartment in my building was vacant for a year. I don't know why. And 2 other apartments across the street in another chambers whatever, has been vacant for like 6, 7 months. So I understand there's a process and it takes time to vet people and it takes a certain number of months.
So we get a regular report on vacancies and we'll get there in a minute too, or a few minutes. Okay.
But again.
But thank you for,
Thank you so much.
yeah. Anybody else online or in the audience? Nope. Okay, let's go. So we have our normal bill schedule and check warrant in the packet here. And do I hear a motion to approve it? And then we'll take questions and comments on that. Moved. And a second?
I second it.
The NHA one here, and any commissioners have any anything they want to ask Cheryl about that's in that warrant? Hearing no questions, I will call the roll. We'll have to do roll calls every time because we have a virtual meeting. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
And that's approved 5-0. Now I've got A2, the HRH LLC bill schedule and check warrant. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Going once, going twice. Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, I'll call the roll. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
And that is approved. All right, we have next our NHA regular board meeting minutes from last month, November 21st, 2024. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
And any questions or edits or tweaks to that from anybody? Hearing none, I will call the roll to approve it. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
And that is approved. Now we're on agenda item C. It's a new experimental agenda item from Cheryl. So I'm going to turn it over to you to outline what we're doing and see if I can find where I printed it out somewhere.
So I'm actually gonna turn it back to you.
I have
This
it.
is
Here it
how
is. Thank
our
you.
consent agenda can work going forward. Because it's so new this particular time, I just put the donations on it
Yeah,
for board's consideration and acceptance. But going forward, next month or even February, we can include meeting minutes on the consent agenda.
okay.
As well as perhaps a financial report from our fee accountants. Anything that, we just vote on, there's not necessarily discussion taken on it. So for example, the consent agenda, the idea is that you, Mr. Chair, would ask if anyone would wish to remove something from the consent agenda, and if there is no objections, then the items on the consent agenda would be voted, adopted by unanimous consent.
And that is an idea we borrowed from.
This is the process of most town boards use this very process, select board, school committee, in those boards in particular, use a consent agenda process to move items forward quickly.
Mhm. And I know in the case of the select board, I don't know about these other boards, they have a very impressive list of things
Yeah.
that they, appointments and acceptance of gifts like we're doing right here tonight, and minutes and all manner of routine things. And they save
Thank you.
a half an hour, 20 minutes, 10 minutes on the
Time.
meeting by doing it this
Yeah.
way.
And of course, the board would have this information a week in advance to review it and have an opportunity to say, I like to discuss something that's on the consent agenda. And of course, we pull it off, and all other items then would be voted on by unanimous consent.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners on this idea? I
Sounds
know
interesting.
one other thing, anything can save some time, get us home to dinner is definitely a good thing here. So I know also that the select board members, again, this is the one I'm most familiar.
Mm.
If they see something that's on the consent agenda that's a little mysterious,
Mm.
or there's something they don't understand, they often call the town manager or whoever and say, I don't quite get this. And they can get an individual explanation. So by the time they get to the meeting, you know, if they haven't found something, you know, wrong, or they want to talk about in public with the other select board members, they can, you know, basically go along with that item as opposed to pulling it off the consent agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's exactly what I meant, and I didn't mean to pull it off and not discuss it, but to pull it off and discuss it separately.
Yeah, well, there's two stages. I think there's something that might be mysterious. They might have a quick clarification question that they get through 2 days ago. And then when we get to the meeting like tonight, it's like, I don't have anything, so let's go with what's there. And then there's some things where they might not agree with what's on the consent agenda. Maybe so-and-so shouldn't be appointed, you know, or I don't know what. I'm just using a hypothetical example. And then they do pull it off. All right, so we're practicing tonight. We have in front of us a bunch of miscellaneous donations. But in the future, we'll have that and other things.
Yes.
Does anybody here object and want to pull anything off of the consent agenda for discussion
Questions?
or have questions? And hearing nothing.
What type of donations?
What are these donations?
Aha, there you go. So we do have, go ahead.
Yeah, where's
Yeah.
the page? I don't see the page where it's,
It was emailed out, I forget when.
This afternoon about.
Fairly recently here.
3:00,
oh,
yeah.
that's right.
The donations are for the holiday parties that we have had at our community rooms for our residents. So our citizens of Needham and our businesses have donated, as outlined on your general donations list, the donations for that event.
So it's $1,395 for the donations from Volandi Farms, Sudbury Farms, Needham Bank, Market Basket, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. Citizens as well donated via Vimo, and it goes into our local initiative bank account. And all of that money was used towards the holiday party at both Seabeds Way and Linden Chambers.
So in our practice session that, you know, if you saw this document, you would have asked Cheryl that question 2 days ago,
Yeah.
or, you know, when you got it in the board packet, and had it answered. And then I get to say, does anybody wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? And I look around and nobody says anything, and I said, if none are removed, there being no objection, these items are adopted by unanimous consent.
Yes.
And I don't even think we have to all call the roll.
No.
Okay, great. All right. End of practice session. All right. We now get to the Executive Director 2024 goals and performance evaluations. And I brought printouts, but most everybody isn't here. But I did bring one. Where are they here? Oh, you got a copy, so you don't need one, Cheryl? Would you like one here?
I have one.
You have there? Okay.
Thank you.
So, it's an odd thing. I will remind everybody, that under the open meeting law, people in leadership positions like Cheryl, but that goes for Kate Fitzpatrick and anybody else like that, who should and do receive regular annual performance evaluations. That's done in open meeting, unlike the private sector, the rest of the world that I've ever lived in, where you meet with your supervisor behind the closed door and you get constructive feedback. And so that's what we are doing tonight. And the other thing was there was some litigation over this, but the commissioners are not allowed to read or receive the performance evaluations in advance of the meeting. Because they aren't meant to talk about them amongst themselves or think about them unless we do it together in public meeting. There was actually a lawsuit on this specific thing. So we've adopted an approach which we've used for several years where the commissioners send in their 2024 performance evaluations and to the chair in this case, who is honor bound not to look at them while he's doing his performance evaluation. And Cheryl also sends in her self-evaluation. And then I do the administrative secretarial function of putting it all together in one packet. And I sent it out 1 hour before this meeting. So that everybody's seen it more or less as much as we can for the first time before the meeting. Just want to open up also with what we have done in the past is that we've also pulled together a consolidated report. We send the individual evaluations out to all the commissioners, without, just as they came in, just all attached together into one PDF file. And then we prepare a summary of the first part of it, which basically in 31 different categories of job performance, ask each commissioner and Cheryl to, rate the 2024 performance. In this case is either exceeds expectation, meets expectations, is below expectations, or there's a not applicable for several of these things where commissioners haven't observed the performance of the individual, in this case, Cheryl. And in this, what I've done is copied over, hopefully faithfully without any mistakes, the evaluation of each one of the commissioners, color coded this year for the first time. I thought that was kind of an interest. And then an R means Reg Foster, and an F means Jim Flanagan. We couldn't use last names or everything because we have the same F. And I thought, well, how about first names? But we have a Janice and a Jim. So F in blue is Jim Flanagan. E in green is Ed Scheidler. P and Penny is red is Penny Cork. J is in Janet. In black is Janice Bennis. And C in orange, C as in Cheryl, is Cheryl Gosman here. So you kind of get a visual kind of impression of where we were all had pretty strong consensus and where there wasn't as much consensus. And then everybody did rate the goals. Those are just attached in the back. And I was wondering if anybody wanted to go first in terms of sort of introducing either their evaluations or their commenting on them or commenting on somebody else's. Any volunteers here? Penny, go ahead. You and Penny are the, and Janice, you need to sort of lead this because Jim is just lurking here, waiting to see how this thing all turns out here. So learning. Go ahead, Penny.
I wanted to comment on Cheryl's goals. Is this the appropriate time to do that?
Anything you want. We'll go one commissioner at a
First
time.
goal is either a typo or a Freudian slip,
Okay.
Typo.
but she is looking to hire a qualified executive director.
Oh,
Thank you, Penny.
it's a great Freudian slip. I hope it isn't true.
She's trying to hire herself.
Or maybe the word highly is involved there. I don't know.
Yeah. It may have been transcribed over incorrectly by your faithful HR personnel, myself here. So that probably is what the real issue was. But
Agree
go
with
ahead.
all your goals. It would be nice if they were more specific, really, but I would like to comment on this packet. This paper is, I think Staples ripped us off. This is terribly high quality paper and everything's in color in the back. And it's all just unnecessary.
Are you talking about the packet or the,
Yeah,
The
the
packet.
packet.
yeah,
Not-
So
it's
we
very
had-
thick, yeah.
We had a snafu with our Toshiba copier. It would not send a scan to our email. So
I understand that, but
we had to get the packet out. send it to
Something-
papers for
such high
copy.
quality paper and color. I'm sure you must have spent a fortune on this packet.
No, your electronic packet is in color, your hard copy packet is in black and white.
The hard copy packet I got is all in color.
It's like 40 pages in color.
Yeah,
All right, so,
well, our copier stopped working and then there was a big fire drill, so, yeah, I think the other 24 packets you've received from Cheryl probably didn't suffer from this, but I'm wondering if you have any comments about the performance evaluation, Penny.
I stand by what I said in mine.
Um,
thank you.
all right, let me go to you, Ed. How about you? Anything there?
No,
Okay. Jim, do you want to go next or?
Yeah, yeah, no, it was a good exercise. I've done these a lot. I've had them done to me a lot over more years than I'd like to admit at this point. And I thought it was a good process. You know, I always like to look at the person's self-review and self-reflection. I thought Cheryl was
Thank you.
spot on that. And even though I've only been here all of 8 months, so there was some, you know, not applicable that I had to reference. Since I've not observed, you know, Cheryl in that specific activity. You know, overall, I see, you know, very hard work, commitment, success in areas such as policy updates, you know, just general overall experience with the NHA, you know, a lot of positives there. The main room for improvement, I know she recognizes too, and I realize she's being relatively new to the position too, is building that team. Right, hiring that team out, and delegating along the way, and having that confidence to, you know, delegate. Sometimes it means letting people make a mistake, right? We've all been there. And allowing that to happen before, you know, you have to perfect it yourself.
Yeah.
Balancing that out with, I really appreciate your high expectations and desire to know how to do things and get them done right. Yeah, those are, my overall thoughts, and, that was a good process, and, yeah, that's it.
Great. Well, I'll go here and one of the things I see here is a bunch of the commissioners that are enormously grateful for everything you do. So I just want to start off on that. I mean, I cannot imagine where we would be 2 years ago if you hadn't stepped up to the plate in so many different areas. And I look at all these different areas. Not that you're a perfect human being and nobody is, but you know, and you've always shown an opportunity, interest in growing and learning every time I turn around, you're doing that. I see some things that stand out. One is that there's a lot of purple R's for Reg Foster's in the exceeds. I think I probably work with you more than anybody else does, and I see how hard it is that you you seem to, you know, get everything done, you know, and probably, and you know, everybody doesn't sort of have the same perspective of all the commissioners. So I'm just saying, from my perspective, it's amazing we even get the regular stuff done, because I know how much of that PRI stuff you get dragged into, even when we tried to shield it for them. And then I see a lot of consensus here, where for, you know, most everybody sort of says you're meeting expectations. And I note that you thought you were meeting everybody's expectations, your own self-expectation. And then I noticed, I just think, just want to call out that Ed and Penny probably were seeing more things that were below their expectations, which doesn't mean it's below everybody's expectations. It could mean many things, but I think that's the thing to follow up on with it, Penny, to just sort of see, hey, get more, give me some examples so I can be a better person, better executive director. And by the way, when I say Ed and Penny, I want to commend you too, because when I opened it up, I did this afternoon, just, before, so I wouldn't be violating this being the clerk. And I want to commend Ed and Penny, but you didn't necessarily all agree on everything, one of you thought Cheryl met expectations, another one thought falling short. So it wasn't like you were doing this on a monolithic basis. And so I think just understanding what it is, from the spirit of we're all trying to do the best we can, and what is it that I can do better for next year? I think just leave that as a discussion to have as a follow-up on this. There's a lot of consensus, certain things that you were really good at, like policies, best I've ever seen of any executive director, trying to get policies updated and so forth and so on. There was, you're meeting or exceeding expectations. Another thing was turnover, turning over units, not, consistently filling them with new tenants, new applicants and so forth. Professional growth, you were recognized then, that you somehow in the middle of all this, three-ring circuits, make time to, learn and make yourself a better place. Your support of the PRI, nobody's ever done that since I've been here, the way you've done it and let it happen. So hopefully with that, that means we will have a lot better units, updated units at Seabeds and Cook. And hopefully that will mean that we'll have more updated units here for Linden Street. So I just call everybody's attention on the board to that. And I guess I would myself just say, I think the one thing I think there was a really, from myself and everybody, it was a real sort of theme of saying, keep working on that delegation and get that assistant executive director person on board, get that person on board before I come back from vacation or tomorrow. I mean, not just anybody.
No, I know.
No, you need the right person. So, but the secret, it was very consistent across all this, that, the secret to success in dealing with this, 5-ring circuits that we have going on is having, a deputy Cheryl that's as strong as Katie King is an example of, I think, in the town where, when she was brought on, she really stepped up to being an incredibly effective assistant town manager, such that she will be, our town manager is retiring, and I think she'll be a strong candidate to replace Kate Fitzpatrick. So, I would say it this way, somebody, not right away, not even really by the end of the year of 2025, but somebody you could see, you could go take a vacation for a month and the whole kit and caboodle would keep running. The trades would keep running on time. And right now, it's nobody's fault. It's not your fault. It's nothing doing wrong. But you don't have anybody you can lean on like that. So, the other thing is in sort of the comments and commendations area, which is, as opposed to the recommendations for improvement. I mean, I just, going back to the day you began, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I've just seen steady growth bit by bit. And sometimes there's been some detours and sometimes setbacks, stubbing of toes, it's inevitable. But it's been steady professional growth that I thought went on all this 2024. You've learned so much about so many different things, like the lawsuits we get and the, we have an NCAD complaint and we have, all these things that you don't learn in school, you don't learn unless you were in that corner office, with the buck stops here sign sitting on the desk here. And through all that, you've maintained your like, cheery attitude, yes, can do, jump high attitude, no matter how many sort of things that come, whacked you from around the corner, and that's amazing to me. And, we're lucky to have you for that reason here, so. And, so my recommendations for improvement were, you're on a good trajectory, 2025, keep doing more of the same. And with an emphasis on more delegation and responsibilities, and finding every day, everything you do is like, who else can I get to do this, instead of me, so. That's my 2 cents here. Do you have anything you want to say, though?
Do I get a shot?
Oh, sorry, Janice, apology. Yes, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
know, well, you practically stole some of my thunder, but
Okay,
I just want to say, let me ask you, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago?
oh, no.
Hell no.
Yeah,
Cheryl,
that's good point.
yeah, hell of a good point. And the workload, I want to say that Cheryl has endured has not been there in 15 years. She's done more work than in the past 15 years than any other director has done. I want to put that out there right now, forward. Because we've never had this much of a workload. And I just want to also add, if she wasn't here, where would we be? We certainly wouldn't be where we are now. I want to commend Cheryl, and I tried to get a hold of her before that first goal was out there. But so maybe she could have changed it, but I believe it was a typo. And I want to comment on her delegating process. I know it's been hard for Cheryl. Cheryl and I are a lot alike. I had the steering committee that hired her. I've known her 25 years. I know her heart. And I know that she has nothing but the betterment of the Needham Housing Authority, period, ended. And more so for the residents. Just let me say that. She's a resident-oriented director. She will do the best for the residents and the best for the Needham Housing Authority. Let me stress that 100% across the board. I love you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you so much.
Give her a Kleenex.
Carol, do you have anything you want to say here?
Thank you so much for your very kind words. And I just want to say that this job is extremely important to me for a lot of reasons that you've said and Janice has said, Jim has said. And first and foremost, the residents are extremely important to me. I'm also a rule follower. I will follow the rules and make sure that the housing authority's liability is, I have their best interest, it's best interest at heart. But it's extremely important to me that our residents are happy, that we have resident organizations, which we do, which I'm really happy about. And I listen to what people have to say. So, in just 2 days, I've met with the Cooksbridge Senate Association and the LCRA. And I'm hearing sometimes things for the first time. And so that's very important for me to hear that, understand that, and move their interest forward. So, and also this is a great agency. We're a little tiny agency doing big things, gigantic things. And I'm really proud to be a part of that. So, I'm a hard worker. That's just in my DNA. I don't know to do anything else. And I love what I'm doing. So thank you, everybody.
Well said.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other comments, Penny, Ed?
Is the goal setting going to be a separate?
We're gonna get there next.
Okay.
In a moment here.
I did just
Go
one
ahead,
follow-up
Jim.
thought after hearing others too. The scope of work is amazing, right? And so in this,
Isn't it?
in this day of great inflation, that's where we're gonna go. Meeting is not a C, right? Meeting is a B anyways, but given the scope of that,
Yeah.
that I hope you appreciate the way I do in the entirety. When I put a lot of meats there, it is with respect to the depth and breadth and the scope of work.
Yeah.
It's being a public agency across state, federal, it's not meant to be efficient
Yeah.
always, right? But your persistence in working through that is to be commended and appreciated.
It's immeasurable.
Thank you.
And Janice, you reminded me something I didn't say that I was going to say is that, in this role as chair and also with the PRI, I have an opportunity much more frequently than most, if not all commissioners, to talk to people at HLC for this, that, and the other thing, whether it's a legal matter, whether it's a PRI matter, whether it's a budget matter, whether it's renewing her executive director's contract. And, the kind of feedback that we all have given is the same kind of feedback I've heard from these people like Bob Pelletier, and our federal, our federal equivalent, I'm forgetting her name, what's her name?
Caitlin Johnson.
Caitlin Johnson, who's been there years and seen many prior executive directors. So, our own sense of the worth of Cheryl and what we have is something I certainly hear from them time to time as well. I just want to say that
Thank
for the
you so
record.
much. Thank you.
Before we go on to 2025 goals, it's been part of our process to have this sort of discussion. If everybody has said their thing, and of course you've got everything in writing now, and you've only had it in writing for an hour, and hopefully that meant that you got it without violating the open meeting law. But if you see anything in the packet that you received where you felt like, gee, maybe I was too hard in my grading or my evaluation, or I was too lenient, or some reason to change something. Our process has been in the past that, in the next week, so 1 week from today, if you want to submit a revised 2024 personnel evaluation reflecting the actual verbal discussion that took place tonight, and also your ability to actually sit down and see where everybody else came out on, and maybe, gee, I was way out here on one side or the other. But now that I've heard the discussion, such as, jug this 3-ring circus part where it makes it hard to do an excellent job on everything because there's so much to do, then please send it to me. Let's say by the end of next week. So that would be Friday, the 27th of, and I will package it up and get it out to Cheryl and get it out to everybody's final personnel evaluation for 2024. Okay. Okay, so the other part of this agenda item is to allow Cheryl to kind of present a proposal of what she thinks her 2025 goals should be. And towards that end, she sent out Cheryl at the last minute her overall strategic plan, I think, for 2020 for 5 years, and then also what she thinks her goals for this upcoming year in the larger context of that 5-year plan is. So I'm just gonna, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn the floor over to Cheryl to present this, and then commissioners get to comment, obviously, because we have to have a meeting of the minds. It's a mutual thing where we come together on what her 2025 goals are. And then Cheryl is going to go back and reflect on it, and she'll bring a final version to the January meeting and we'll adopt those goals. And then again, just to refresh everybody's memory, remind everybody, these are not her job evaluations. Should not be things that she should be doing that's in the personnel description, the job description of an executive director. Obviously, reports should go out on time every month, board packets should go out, issues have to be dealt with and so forth. This is, sort of those special things we want to give to Cheryl and have her say, yes, this really makes sense to me, that, we will then look at this time next year and say, did you really accomplish these extra goals, that are sort of above and beyond the call of duty, or something that isn't just strictly doing my job for which I get my base pay. So Cheryl, go ahead with what you are going to
That's great.
present here.
Okay, so the first one is to hire a highly qualified assistant executive director. And I do want to mention that I do have someone that that is close to filling that role. So it's more, more to come shortly on that. Delegate more is really tough for me because I really am a perfectionist, and but I also recognize the importance of letting other people do that, even if they make mistakes, but letting them do that. Increased grant funding is something that I'm working on now. We have a module through HUD called Grant Solutions, and we can apply for grants that way. And then there have been suggestions from residents of other items that they hear about that I follow up on as well. So more to come on that too. That's very important to me, to increase grant funding. Better resident engagement, and I have a lot of ideas about better resident engagement, and that's extremely important. Work with the LTO to build capacity. So that's at the heart of my mat. I really like to work with the LTO to help them to be a good organization serving the needs of their constituencies, the needs of their residents, the needs of their neighbors, and help them to build capacity to do that. And then hire an after-school program manager. We were close. We had someone that was interested and then dropped out, but we're still working on that. We're working with families to improve participation and programming. So those are my 2025 goals. And then you also have another document, and I'm not sure if I should go into.
No, please go ahead.
Okay.
Because it's the larger context, as I understand. Well, you tell us what you think, what
Right.
it means here.
Well, they're very ambitious goals, and it's the Executive Director 5-year goals for Needham Housing Authority. And these are almost my personal goals, if you will, but to develop a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that facilitates the creation or updates the agency's strategic plan, focusing on expanding affordable housing, improving resident services, and modernizing existing properties. And this is what we do. This is what we do on a daily. But to really fine tune that goal and make it more measurable, so that people, residents in particular, and stakeholders, the board can see the tangible efforts from that goal. To build leadership capacity, I'd like to foster a culture of professional development among our senior staff. We do have some very talented people that if you give them more, they'll do more. And ensuring that succession planning and staff retention strategies are in place. This is very important to me. Enhance organizational culture, promote diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And that's extremely important to me, to have a diverse staff and so that there's equity among women, among persons of color, and inclusion initiatives. Operational excellence, optimize the property, management operations, implement resident-focused management practices to maintain 95% occupancy rate across properties. This is something we're doing already, but that's important for us to keep our nose on, our finger on the radar to make sure that this happens. It's easy to do. Needham is a beautiful town. People want to live here. They feel safe here. So we don't see people leaving in droves. So this is something that we just want to foster and keep it at that 95% rate that it currently is. We want to improve our response time. So we have, for our maintenance team, work orders are currently completed within 24 hours to 72 hours for routine issues. And within 12 hours for emergencies. That's a bit of a stretch because our properties are so old and aging, and it takes more to complete an emergency repair. Financial stewardship, secure additional funding, increase grant funding, which I spoke of earlier, grant funding opportunities by 10%, federal, state, and private partnerships. Maximize HUD compliance. We currently have a high achieving public housing agency on our CMAP score, which is the Section 8 Management Assessment Program. And we want to improve our public housing assessment system scores. As I said, we're currently high achieving on the CMAP. We are up again in April for that evaluation. And CMAP will be starting again in the spring. I'm sorry, FOS will be starting again in the spring. Resident engagement and support. Expand resident services. Introduce at least 2 new programs focusing on workforce development, health and wellness, or youth engagement. Enhance communication channels, very important. Implement quarterly town halls. That's very ambitious, but I'd like to do that. Multilingual newsletters. It has occurred to me that we should be sending our newsletters out in different languages to our residents. We have a huge Russian and Mandarin population, and they're looking at our newsletters and probably not being able to fully engage in that. So that's something that I absolutely want to do. And then I want to improve our digital platforms for our residents, for resident and communication for resident. And I'm not exactly sure how that will play out, but that's something that I'd like to do. I'd like to make it easy for our residents to communicate to us in any way that they can. And I want to improve that process. Strengthen tenant satisfaction, increase overall tenant satisfaction scores through targeting initiatives and addressing resident feedback. Performance measuring. Of course, we have our annual report every year from HUD, and we also have our performance measurement PMR from the state. And so those are things that we do anyway. The state and HUD monitors our performance. And so we want to make sure that we are achieving high scores in those areas. And then the last pages are just how I like to roll that out. It's just the implementation of the goals on the first page.
Very amazing. No executive director has ever done this in the 15 years that I've been here. I think it would be worthy of Superintendent Gutentanz, the kind of goals that he would have for the Needham school system, but our version of it. So, any comments from any of the commissioners, either on Cheryl's 5-year plan vision here? Is that what you call it? Or
the strategic goals, executive strategic 5-year goal, and then my 20.
So what the 5-year context, or what she has pulled out as the individual goals for 2020. Rome was not built in a day. So the 2025 goals, in that larger context. Any comments from anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ed.
I have some tough love to share. And maybe it belonged back in the former discussion, but when we were looking to hire a new executive director, I lobbied very aggressively to support Cheryl because I wanted her in the position, and I felt she would do a very good job. And she has done an absolutely outstanding job, and nobody works harder. And my fear is that she's going to continue to work so hard, she's going to burn herself out and get sick. And then where would our PRI be, and where would the trains running on time be if Cheryl got sick? And my assessment or my observation is one of the reasons she's working so hard is because she does not delegate. I think I know the reason based on my past experience, but 2 months ago, I brought up the same discussion and suggested that a behavior coach to help Cheryl to get the self confidence that she could start to trust people enough to start to delegate in a more meaningful way. Has anything been done about that? I know there was the incentive brought up at the time and voted on was a cash reward for meeting certain goals. I think that there's a deeper reason causing this issue, that a good coach who could help her with this control issue of wanting to do everything herself could help her overcome that. And apparently there's nothing been done along those lines. But I have a couple of examples that show what I'm really talking about. One was brought up tonight that the videos of our meetings, that the latest one at the time that the resident was looking for them they were updated through July. That seems like a pretty simple type of thing that could be delegated to someone. The executive director said she wanted to do it herself. That certainly seems to be easy. An adversarial atmosphere has been created. One of the commissioners was raising money for entertainment projects for the residents. And there's no doubt in my mind that the executive director knew exactly what the commissioner was raising the funds for. And yet some of the funds came in that weren't specifically designated for a particular program and were put into the general finances of the organization. And the response when a question was raised about that was that the commissioner should have no aspirations to think that she could be delegating or determining where that money was going to be spent. That when it came in without a specific designation from the donor, the executive director could put it into general funds. Another example of creating an adversarial atmosphere is one of the residents wanted a piano for Linden Chambers. And nothing was happening, so that resident went out and found a piano. And then there was an issue about moving the piano, and our maintenance staff didn't want to move it because they were afraid they might damage it in the process. So that resident went out and did some research and came back with a proposal from a vendor. And the response was not thank you for being proactive. The response was, you do not have the authority to get estimates of costs on anything on behalf of the Needham Housing Authority. So a change in attitude, I think if the executive director was not so badly overworked and so stressed out that type of adversarial environment would not have been created. It would have been handled very differently. And I think the stress is an indication of maybe that maybe the frustration and the stress of the job is beginning to cause some unhealthy results. So I would like to
Maybe if you could bring that to the goals, and I hear you saying that it's important to make sure Cheryl's getting the kind of help that she needs, and maybe she can, she can speak to that and put that in their goals, think about that and come back. And then also that I think we all don't want her to burn out, that's for sure, and
and I want her to be successful.
yeah, and be successful. And I think getting that new deputy or assistant executive director on board, but you've had some people assisting you, right? I'm thinking of Cynthia Howe, is that right?
City House, and
So-
Integrity. We have a great group of folks. I have a great network of people that I reach out to that support the work that I'm doing and, understand the work of the housing industry. So.
But that's something maybe you can, reflect upon and bring back when in the final goals there,
Okay,
that you would,
correct.
that, you will be seeking out that, I think Ed is providing examples. He's not trying to tell you what
And I
to
just
do.
weigh
Yeah.
in here, I
Go
just
ahead,
want to weigh in a
Janice.
little bit here, Reg.
No.
That's why they hire piano moving companies, because they're so a delicate piece of to move.
And-
I
And
mean,
they're heavy. Yeah, I've done it myself. Yeah.
yeah, it's ridiculous to move a piano,
But-
and
I'm trying to get
the
away from
housing
the,
authority doesn't need to have to pay for that. That's ridiculous.
Janice, I'm trying to get away from just talking about the example, but, talking about how it factors into what the final goal statement looks for 2025. And what I was hearing is that, again, we need that deputy executive director. Maybe we can talk about next month, about the, the assistance that you are getting. Because that's very, normal, and board is absolutely behind you, getting that. So what would that be that would work for you? And not necessarily get hung up on piano moving companies, but just sort of using that as an example.
So I can outline that.
Yeah. Jim, go
I
ahead.
know you've been open to a lot of input, a lot of industry specific stuff that's very important.
Yes.
And I'm hoping amongst that also you're getting that management feedback, and I encourage you to, avail yourself to that and get more of it if you need to. I've gotten a lot of it through my career, both formal and informal. And that's how I overcame some of my inabilities at times, right? Yeah, I do want to comment I've been in a lot of different board executive director relationships, and their whole methodologies and varies. One's the Carver method, right? In which the Carver method, the board can't say anything about operations. It's all policy level, and that was too extreme for my liking. But the idea of, us staying as much at that policy level and respecting your ability, and that, you report to us, the one person. And then that helps. I've seen organizations just run a lot better. So we stay out of the operational weeds. Finally, from the one thing that the technology standpoint, right? It's moving so fast. I am in the industry and I still can't keep up on a personal level. I see younger people coming up and they can do things that I'll never be able to catch up on. It's tough to accept that sometimes, but as you were building your team, avail yourself to those. Find people who complement. Right, there's so many things you're strong at, right? And technology will be one of the areas, as you work across all the systems you do already, all the mandated systems, but then can roll in new systems. And both from the operational standpoint and I like the tenant communication standpoint too.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Janice, do you have any other comments to offer on Cheryl's proposed goals?
I just want to say, I think Cheryl has a great potential to bring Needham Housing Authority a long way. And I'm just sorry that, you know, we have a few people in particular that are opposed to what we've put 3 years into. And that's pretty sickening to me that we have to deal with this. It's just another medial setback after all the work we've put in. And Cheryl's doing a great job, and she's going to find a great assistant. And I think once she does put that team together, thank you for that term, Jim. That's what she needs. She needs a great team. She got stuck with a lot of people that, you know, weren't up to her standard. Cheryl's a great leader, and because, hey, she adopted me. So
You're a tough cookie.
here we are. Back together again, Crusaders. We're
Thank
gonna
you.
win. Let's go, team.
Thank you, Janice. Kenny, do you have any thing further to add?
I'm really in agreement with everything that's been said. Both.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'm going to try to wrap things up then a little bit because I've been, this has been really helpful for me. Hopefully it's not hopefully it's been helpful for you, but it's funny. I think these are all great goals, but I'm not worried about some of them.
Okay.
I would almost boot them off the list if they're not, if this isn't heresy. And the tenant association people might think this is heresy so I'm not saying we should do this, but I really don't worry about you working with the tenants and building relations. You're a natural. You're the best person I've ever seen since I've come here doing that. I know that's going to happen anyway, but I think the emphasis on the first ones that you had on your list, you know, the highly qualified assistant executive director, I would expand that to what Janice just said, hiring in others, your entire team. Get that assistant executive director, but every single one of the people that's working under you needs to be a high performance person, whatever role they're filling.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to shine. That's how you're going to look good. And that's more, you know, how you're going to have confidence that they can step into, you know, you can give them something to do and you don't have to worry about them doing it right, you know, most of the time anyway.
Yeah.
And then I would say the second one there, the delegate more, you know, which is all part of get the kind of help you need, like Jim was just talking about, what his mentoring, you know, the mentoring he received. Yeah. Whoever that mentor is, those are things I experienced myself. You know, first time CEOs, you know, somebody's put money in this company and more often than not, the investors will hire a mentor, coach person and pay and say, look, it's like your personal vocational psychiatrist, therapist, you know, and, you know, doesn't report to the board, doesn't report to the investors, just somebody you can be a sounding board, you know, that kind of thing. And, you know, I would almost, I mean, I'm not insisting on this, but I'm less worried about your building good relations, building up the LTOs and everything, because that, you know, that's in your DNA, you know, you're going to do that anyway. Plus, we now have a strong, you know, new group leading, you know, the Linden Tennis Association. So that's going to be very synergistic all by itself. So that's my 2 cents. So maybe you can reflect on all that.
Yeah.
And does anybody else have anything to contribute for this? Okay, great. So we'll move on. We are at the executive director's report.
Okay, and you have before you our report from our fee accountants, Melanie Shaw and Robillard.
So let's practice our consent agenda thing again. You have everybody has the standard monthly reports. Does anybody have any questions? We don't have to present them, but just none from Jim. How about Penny, Ed, you, Janice?
Nope.
Is the Markham CBIZ proposal, is that going to be discussed separately, or is that going to be part of the consent?
It's on the agenda where?
On section E, E is in Ed.
Okay, yeah, it is going to be discussed separately.
Okay.
But it isn't on the agenda.
It is.
It is.
Oh.
Yes.
Am I looking at the wrong agenda?
In the table of contents. not on the agenda.
It's in my monthly report.
Okay, so,
So,
All
there's
right.
nothing to discuss in the financial report. There's
yeah,
no
okay,
questions
good.
or-
All
I
right,
did
so
wanna-
monthly management report, go ahead.
But I also, just for Marlena, I just wanted to point out some of the my glasses, I don't have. The vacancy report.
Would you like me to read it for you?
So the vacancy report for November has
That's on.
4 units, and I think I sent that to you all. 4 units at Chambers Street that is vacant, and 1 unit on Linden Street. Is that Linden Street?
So November has 4 units at Chambers and 0 at Norton.
Okay, 1 at Captain Robert. Cook.
1 at Robert Cook here.
Okay, yeah.
But we get these reports every month, and you do too, Ken too here.
Yeah.
And so we look and say, November, we had 5 vacant units at the end of the month, across all 316 units we have. October 5, September 5. It's different 5 each time, obviously, okay, but August 5, July 7, June 6, 10 in May. I don't know what was going on there. I think there were some people actually passing away, if I remember, in May. 9 in April, 8, and so forth. So it's a very important thing to stay on top of, and I, agree with your comment at the beginning of the meeting here, so.
And we are short-staffed. We are only down, we're down to 3 maintenance men. 1 was injured and 1 is homesick. But, we have a certain amount of time that we have to turn those vacant units around, and so we're working hard to get that done. The slowdown is staffing, so we're looking at other options to get those completed and done and housed. Yeah. So that's that for the vacancy, the management report. The next item is the Markham plus CBIZ, and I think Commissioner Scheidler had a question about that. Mr. Chair, sure.
You have a question, Ed, for, yeah, it was about, you should present what's going on in Markham here.
Okay, so Markham is partnering with this CBIZ organization. And I think I included in your packet the email from Michael Guider, as well as the report on the firm's system of quality controls, that is CBIZ. But I've been talking with Michael Guider about this. Nothing actually changes. We're going to continue with the same process of auditing our financials as we have done with just Markham and not CBIZ. And this proposal is for several years. I really like working with Markham. They're very responsive. They're very thorough. And, anything I have a question about, they answer immediately. So I don't see why we would not continue with them.
And they, I guess they were acquired by
They
CBIZ.
were acquired by
Yeah.
CBIZ, yes.
And this happens in the business world, and then people, everybody's heard of the accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. Well, guess what? There used to be a Price, a Waterhouse, and Coopers that were all individual accounting firms that decades ago kind of combined forces, so
I
that's
worked for the Price and Waterhouse before the Coopers.
before the Coopers part, yeah. And it happens all the time, so, so are you
So this is
asking?
pretty much routine. It's really, I just want you.
Now,
to-
is this for the same fees that we had before?
Yes, that's a good question, and I can't answer that. This really is, there's no action to take on this
Okay.
item tonight. It's really for your review, absorb it, and then we can bring it back at our January meeting.
Okay,
With any questions you may have after having read through the materials. I will also, have, more concrete information on costs,
okay.
and I'll bring that to the January
Okay.
meeting.
Any
A
comments?
review,
Go ahead.
are you speaking to me?
Yes,
You'll bring that for review. We're not just gonna vote
Thank you.
on the,
Commissioner. No, this is review. This is your review period. So I bring it back in
but you
January.
don't, but we don't have any numbers to review.
You don't have the
Page
cost.
54 has their fee proposal.
Sorry.
Oh, it does.
It's like it's, 30,000 for fiscal year 2024. Assuming that's the current, and then going up $2,000 a year. Every year for the basis, and then an EOHLC agreed upon services. Addition in 25 and 27. So again, you'll share more about what those
Yeah.
are with us.
Yeah, I talked more in depth with that,
Yep.
with Michael about
and,
that.
and I think we will need to approve of the new contract.
That's
right?
correct. Correct.
I'm reminded that, this is an ancient memory, and I may be
Mm.
wrong, that there's some regulation or some provision where we're not, EOHLC doesn't let us go more than a 5-year agreement with an audit firm, or maybe it's HUD,
I think it was HUD.
yeah.
Um.
So maybe you'll look
I'll
into
look
that
into
as well.
Yeah,
And frankly, I'm not sure that makes sense to do,
5 years.
well, certainly a 10-year agreement, but even a 5-year agreement, I mean, maybe it should be a 3-year agreement. Because they say nothing is going to change and the same level of high quality service is gonna continue, but that changes do happen. When one firm, acquires another.
Hmm.
And I'm saying it should be a 1-year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying either, obviously, they have the institutional knowledge of our prior audit, so they wouldn't be starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Whenever you bring a new auditor in, when you switch auditors, it's always expensive. Because the new firm comes in and they say, oh, well, we have to go through everything from scratch, in a way that the continuing firm doesn't need to do, so, no. Anyway.
So the other options for renewal could be a good tool
Yeah.
there that give you the best of both worlds.
Okay, we are done with agenda item F, is that right? Anything else, Cheryl?
That's it.
I mean, E.
E.
Yeah. So we're at the Preservation and Redevelopment Initiative. We have our reports in the packet here. I'm just gonna call out some highlights.
I have a point of order, is this okay? You're in section E. Could you tell me what pages are the financial report and the management report?
So.
I'm a little
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah, so the management, the financial report is in your packet on page 19 through 36. The management reports you received under a separate cover. So those I sent to you in a separate email because they weren't ready in time of the packet distribution. As well as, what else did I send you today? Yeah, I sent, and I think I sent it to all of you all. And not only that, but I also sent a hard copy as well. So
Right.
Blair brought those to the community room today, hard copies of the additional board meeting materials with your names on it.
Yeah, I have. this-
Table of contents? Do you have the table of
Okay, that's the
contents?
Table of contents, that's the opening page, that's the cover page.
Yeah,
It
Okay,
shows the page.
financial report. That's
Um,
the monthly financial report, section E,
it's page 19, last
all right,
financial report.
19 to 36.
Yep.
But the management
And the
report
management report,
came under a separate cover.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
I'll have to. Got it,
yeah, so
So-
it was sent electronically and hard copies.
Yes.
Yep,
today.
today, that's correct.
I guess I will say for the record that, we aspire to get everything out by the Friday before. I just want to remember everybody, this is actually our third board meeting in 1 month. We actually had one on December 2nd. And then we had the budget one on December 12th, and now we have this one on December 19th. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of, one of the reasons I gave Cheryl seeds expectations where nobody else did is I see how much how much effort goes into pulling the board packet together. It's it's not any individual item is not necessarily complicated, but kind of getting it all assembled and page numbered and put together and delivered on time is hard enough with one board meeting per month, let alone 3 board meetings per month. So, but being the perfectionist that you are, I know that you actually, would want to, make sure we got all the stuff a few more days ahead of time, but
I used to
we're.
have to do it quarterly and I'm having PTSD just thinking about it, right? So,
All right.
thank you.
Linden Street redevelopment project, a lot has happened since I think it was just before Thanksgiving, November 21st. We last met and, I will, just touch bases on, touch highlights here. There are the reports from both Cambridge Housing Authority and our new development partner. The first thing, I'm just gonna be roughly chronological order, but I might get it wrong. Yeah, but the first and biggest thing that happened is on the 25th, Monday, the 25th of November, we submitted, on the last day we could, the preliminary application for the $55 million of funding we need to do for the Linden Street redevelopment project. And that's something we've been sprinting to that finish line since the beginning of the year, and we actually made it. The second thing that happened is that the site plan review special permit that was approved by the planning board on November 6th became final and has now been recorded. That is, again, was a huge effort over not just the last 6 months, but the last 2 years to get to that point. So from the town of Needham's planning board's point of view, we are authorized to move forward with construction once we find some funding, and that's not going to be easy. That $55 million pre-application will be going through their screening process, and sometime in early January, they will let us know if we're invited to compete in the full application process. It's called the Winter 2025 round, one-stop round. And the application due date for that full application, if we are invited, is Friday, February 27th, 2025. So our development partners will be, driving that bus and leading the way on all of that.
Reg, can I-
Mhm.
So they'll let us know early January, right?
Sometime by mid-January
By
is when they
mid-January.
normally do it, but they don't have a specific date.
Cause,
I was going to go to the next point that you're about to raise.
all right, go ahead.
Sorry. Ken, lots of things going on. So, in this, period of time since the last board meeting, the, citizens, that, many Needham voters, over almost 4,000 of them, signed a petition to recall Articles 18 and 19 that were passed by town meeting last spring, which authorized the zoning district called the Affordable Housing District that would be needed in order to construct a 136 unit multifamily apartment building here. So having under this town bylaws, citizens can do that if they don't like what the representative town meeting has voted. If you get enough signatures, it's like 20% of the voters or something like that. Then they can force a recall petition or referendum. And there's been a flurry of meetings with the planning board and with the select board that has resulted in January 14th, Tuesday, for a special town election and votes from voters to as to whether they're going to support the upholding of the Articles 18 and 19 we need to build this, or whether they don't support it. And the rules, as I understand it, is the yes votes have to outnumber the no votes, and the no votes have to be at least 20% of town voters. So there's a major effort afoot by the supporters of Articles 18 and 90 need to round up the votes. And then that leads me to need to say in public what the guidance we got from town council, which I forwarded to the commissioners earlier this week. And apparently under state law, elected boards, commissions, and committees, members of those boards, commissions, and committees cannot lobby politically for one way or the other for this this referendum be either upheld or turned to overturned. Legally, you cannot do that. And I guess it has something to do with improperly putting their thumbs on the various scales of one way or the other. So this applies not to just us, it applies to the select board, the planning board, conservation commission, board of health, everything. So please, our commissioners, please take that, read that memorandum from the town council and don't do anything to cause a problem. Obviously, we don't want to do that. And so that goes to Ross Donald's comment at the beginning of the meeting, which I wanted to get to this point of the meeting, but where he said, thank you very much to the commissioners for supporting the MBTA Communities Act. Zoni, you said something to that effect. We did send a letter of support, but for the fall town meeting but we can't do that again now. That's against the law, I guess. So we are taking no position on this one way or the other officially, either as a group or individually as commissioners.
Could it be challenged? I mean, if they get, hypothetically speaking, they got their 20% or whatever the simple majority, is there a way to appeal that, or is that final?
That's final. And thank you. That's a great question, because that has already put in jeopardy the funding we've already received. So one of the penalties under the MBTA Communities Act is for towns that are not in compliance by the end of this year, they are not eligible for various pots of money for state, money for things. We have $1 million of grants we have already received. That we've received a letter saying, oh, by the way, congratulations on winning this $1 million grant for the project. But, you know, you're not eligible. We won't even sign the grant agreement with you until Needham is in compliance. So, and that also applies to the future $55 million that we need as well. So,
So that includes the MBTA construction as well as our project or the project?
so we are being punished. We're not related. We have different zoning, we have different everything, but a whole bunch of state funds that might otherwise go to the town are in jeopardy. One big component of which is the Needham Housing Authority.
Right.
So
But I
not
guess
good.
my question is, would that also affect whatever plans they have for MBTA properties developing?
Yes, so if it was turned down, you know, if it was, was not supported, you know, the referendum, the opponents won the referendum, let's put it that way, then we would not be in compliance. And I think the plan B the town has talked about is that they would call a special town meeting in February and at least adopt the base compliance scenario. There were two scenarios, the base compliance scenario and a more ambitious neighborhood compliance scenario. So they do it over again. But we would probably get kicked out of the funding competition for at least this year. So obviously we have a great deal of interest, but again, don't, you know, by the way, this doesn't apply to residents or anybody else that supports it, but it does apply to commissioners and probably the executive director as well here. Do not lobby for this one way or the other. Okay.
Reg, I just want to say that I asked you about this 2-3 months ago and you weren't all that concerned, but you know, as we move forward, it's of great concern now if you go.
Yeah, you were right. There is, you know, and they did a very, very thorough community engagement process for 2 years to get to the point of adopting this in the spring. I mean, sorry, this fall, but apparently people weren't paying attention and all of a sudden sort of came out of the woodwork and opposed it. So anyway.
Well, I don't expect that we should back down either.
Yeah, well, no, the towns, you know, people in the town are, you know.
We need this
support.
housing. There's no
Yep.
question about it.
But we can't lobby for this as commissioners. Select board members can't do it, planning board members can't do it, you know, it's just,
And I hate how our hands are tied that we can't go out and fight, you know, it just as regular citizens.
Yep.
For, you know, what we know the town needs and wants.
So just read that memo. I'm not giving legal advice. That's the legal advice.
No,
we
I
got.
understand the whole
Yeah.
process. Trust me, because I saw it coming down the road.
Come on, guys.
All right, onward. The next thing that happened, amazingly, in this very busy month is that, we received a lawsuit from Jim Burke suing the Needham Housing Authority and the Planning Board. And we will be discussing that in an executive session in terms of our strategy there. Okay, and then amazingly, in the same month, the Attorney General's office approved Articles 18 and 19. So this is standard, no zoning article anywhere in the Commonwealth or any town. If one's voted in, it has to be submitted to the Attorney General's office for approval. And lo and behold, the approval letter arrived last week, approving it, Articles 18 and 19. And that was great. And I was reading through multi-page legalese and so forth until they disclosed that Ross Donald had opposed approving Articles 18 and 19 and filed a letter or an email or something with them. I don't have a copy of that, opposing it. So they discussed it in their opinion approving the Articles 18, 19, and said that the reasons, which I don't know why Ross Donald did that, but the reasons that he put forward for opposing it were not valid. It's a time for the meeting to be over. Yes, thank you. That's the report for Linden Street. Does anybody have any questions? And for Seabeds and Cook, another piece of good news. So last week, Cheryl, we had put in before October, we put in our third time's the charm, try at a repositioning application for the red Section 18 blend repositioning of our Seabeds and Cook properties. This is what will liberate about $1.5 million more per year of funding, and also which we will use for the modernization and preservation of those units. And it will also free up the so-called clear cloth units, which are the annual subsidy units that help us be able to serve people with extremely low income. And those subsidy units are destined to come over to the Linden Street project to make that project work. And lo and behold, approval came in with a new world record speed last month that our application was approved. And so that's all goodness. And I think that's about enough amazing news to report here. Any questions on anything else here? All right, let's move on then. Cook School After School Program. Agenda 8G.
Yeah, just a quick update, status quo, we're wrapping up the pottery project program, it's ending soon. We've opened up homework support for our High Rock residents here at Linden Chambers Community Room. And we have the high school homework team coming to Captain Robert Cook Drive as well. Still looking to hire a program manager. And we'll have our standard, I don't want to call them standard, our outstanding partners back on board with us in the spring. That's Babson College and Nobles and Greenon. That's it. Just quick.
Any questions or comments? Okay, new business. Review and approve continued use of 2024 payment standards.
Which is not in your packet.
So I guess we're going to,
So these are the current, so
Yeah.
the 2025 payment standards were lowered by HUD. And housing authorities across the Commonwealth are appealing that. And so until that plays out, I just like the board's consideration to continue to use the 2024 payment standards instead of the 2025 payment standards. And that's what other housing authorities are doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need a formal vote, but if you'd like to vote on that,
well, since we don't have anything in front of us to
Okay.
vote
We'll
on,
have
maybe
payment
we'll treat
standards
this
in
as
front of
a board information
Okay.
item here.
sounds great.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, last item of new business, and then we're going to adjourn into executive session. You might note that our regular third Thursday of February is on February 20th. And that's typically something we've always checked on because it's in the middle of school vacation week, and that is often a problem with kid owners. Like maybe Mr. Flanagan on my left here. And at which point we choose a date that's either earlier or later than that week. I myself am going to be around. Penny, Ed, Janice, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
And Cheryl,
good.
so
Yes.
I know I've now got Jim looking at his calendar.
Don't have anything planned yet. My kids don't want as much to do with me as they used to.
Uh-huh.
I know that feeling.
All right, so we may be okay.
Let's hold do it, and if I'm traveling, I could do it virtually.
Well, and why don't you take a look and, revisit this in January?
Yeah.
At our January meeting, just to reconfirm here. Okay, we are at the end. So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn, the regular meetings of HRH, Iraq Homes LLC and NHA, to enter into an executive session to consider, and we have to do a roll call vote on this, and discuss strategy with respect to litigation, the nature of which cannot be publicly disclosed because it will be compromise the purpose of the executive session. Following the executive session, the board will adjourn for the evening. And not
Second.
back into public session. So seconded by Janice. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. I'm gonna ask everybody who's attendees, please to log off.
Thank
I
you
got
for
that.
coming.
I'm gonna log you off here. Yes, thank you.
Well, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank
See you next
you.
year.
Thank
And
you.
happy- Thank you.
Yeah, be safe.
Good holiday season, happy healthy.
You do too.
Okay, thank you so much.
So much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
We're still clearing people out of the room here in one more minute.
Bang.
You too. Happy holidays.
Maybe you want to swing the door over there,
Yep.
Jim.
Slam it.
Is executive session recorded?
Yeah, we probably should end the recording here and just take notes. So thank you for remembering that. And we do have to have minutes taken of this.